In this video, I'm telling you why the return of Milestone Comics was part of the best of 2021. What's up guys, BJ Kicks here. I buy comics, I read them, and I review them, all for your viewing pleasure. So if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. Now this channel is one where I do a bunch of comic book reviews, unboxings, hauls, and everything like that. So if you're interested in comic book content, hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss out on new videos. Now, this is the final installment in my series that I'm calling The Best of 2021, where I recap some of my favorite moments in comics from the year 2021. It's New Year's Eve. Tomorrow, it's a whole new year. New things, new resolutions, new goals, blah, blah, blah. But we got one day to reflect on all the great things that happened this year. And I couldn't let this year pass by without one final shout out to Milestone Comics and Milestone Media. So the Milestone Returns relaunch. Now, for those of you who may be new to comics or who may not be familiar with the history of Milestone Media, well, Milestone Media was an imprint of DC Comics. To put it correctly, they weren't an imprint. They were a full separate company published by DC Comics in kind of a groundbreaking agreement way back in the early 90s. And so they brought you titles like Hardware, Icon, The Blood Syndicate, and Static. So they're probably most famous for the eventual cartoon adaptation of Static, known as Static Shock. Now, Milestone had a pretty robust publishing line. They published like thousands of books, 50 issues of Hardware, 45 issues of Static, 42 issues of Icon, 35 issues of Blood Syndicate, and they had a bunch of other miniseries and other titles as well in their 4.5 years of publishing. Well, the comic book market kind of imploded, the speculator bubble burst, and Milestone was one of the companies left in the wake of that unfortunate event. And we thought we'd never see Milestone come back. Briefly, back in like 2011-ish, some of the Milestone characters were folded into DC Comics in a cool little deal. So we started to see, we got a New 52 Static series. We started to see Static in some other media as well, video games and all that. But when Dwayne McDuffie passed in 2011, kind of was the final nail in the coffin, or most people thought, when it came to Milestone Media. Well, after years and years of starting and stopping and, failed attempts and everything in between, right? Late last year, late in 2020, during Fandom, we were told that Milestone was coming back, and we got a digital version of a book called Milestone Returns. That is this book right here. Now, Milestone Returns basically was a kind of a relaunching of the Milestone universe, a retelling of the Big Bang, which was the event that kind of was the catalyst for all of this stuff to even happen, where how a lot of these people in the Milestone Media universe got their powers and so on. Well, we got that announcement. We had a digital comic or a copy of the book, and then nothing. Radio silence. We were told we'd have it relaunched in time for Black History Month in February. February 2021 kind of came and almost went until DC kind of came out with a press release like, hold on, we got more stuff coming. And so they announced the digital launches of Static Season 1, Hardware Season 1, Icon and Rocket Season 1, and that they would have print adaptations to follow. And that is what we're talking about today. So the return of Milestone means a lot to me. I'm someone who learned about Milestone within like the last 18 months or so and kind of dove super deep. I've bought almost all the single issues. All I'm looking for is a Static 45. And then I've got the full original lineup in short boxes safely in my home. I've even gotten like old trade paperbacks. So we got Static Shock, Trial by Fire. This collects the first 4 issues of Static. We got Hardware, Man in the Machine. This collects the first 10 issues of Hardware by Dwayne McDuffie and Dennis Cowan. We got Icon. This is actually the second trade collection of Icon, with some sporadic issues, kind of basically the second 10 to 12 issues of Icon, also by Dwayne McDuffie, this time with art by Mark Bright. Just great stuff. The original Milestone Media titles were just super groundbreaking, in my opinion. And so I was really excited about this relaunch, this return to the Dakota universe, because I'd become so entrenched with the original stuff, not to mention the Static Shock animated series. And I was really excited, really excited. Nick Draper Ivey did designs for Static, and then they announced him as the artist for the actual book. And I was all in. When I say all in, I mean all in. I got every book. I got every cover. I got everything that I could get to show that I was completely on board. And some really cool things happened. I ended up getting shouted out by by Dennis Cowan as well as Nick Draper Ivey. So that was insane. We interviewed Dennis Cowan here on the channel on an episode of The Hangout. Impromptu. I had no idea that was going to happen. Just kind of happened. And it was just really cool. So besides all the sentimental reasons why I loved the relaunch of Milestone Media, we got to talk about the content of the books, right? So they come out of the gate with this Milestone Returns, this 0 issue, this sort of resetting of the universe. Really, it just kind of teases a lot. It doesn't really give us a lot of story, but it's a great introduction for people who didn't read the original material, right? But when they came out with, did I drop my book? There it is. When they came out with this Static Season 1, this was the first book out of the gate. And man, it gives you all the feels. This book kind of combines some of the best elements of the animated series with some of the best elements of the original comic book series. Now we're getting kind of a deeper look into the effects that the Big Bang has on Virgil, specifically how it affects his mental state. He finds himself angrier. He finds himself just kind of not really feeling himself. And so over the course of these 6 issues, he's starting to kind of come to terms with what's happened to him and then deciding to use these powers, his newfound ability, for good. And there's a conspiracy brewing. We're not done with this series yet. There's only 4 issues out, with 2 more coming in the coming months. Very good series though, written by Vita Ayala with art by Nick Draper Ivey, layouts by Chris Cross. Great stuff. Then we move on to Move on to Icon and Rocket Season 1. That's the second one out of the gate. This one written by Reggie Hudlin, art by Doug Braithwaite. And this was also co-written by Leon Chills, I should mention, with this beautiful cover by Torrin Clark. Now, Icon and Rocket. Icon was kind of a Superman type analog. And in this series, we're basically getting a whole new origin of Icon. Well, it's the same origin, but we're getting a retelling of that origin story. The real star of the show is Rocket, just like she was in the original series. So think about 2 people that are like the opposites in every way. One is older, one is super young, one's conservative, the other's super liberal. One is like super buttoned up and by the book, and the other is kind of a wildfire, a wildcat, right? Why can't I think of that word? But anyway, you get the point, right? Loose cannon. There we go. And so that's Icon and Rocket. And Rocket is actually who kind of convinces Icon to be a superhero. But in this series, we're getting a lot of like backstory. Because Icon is an alien who has lived for literally thousands of years, we're getting to see like centuries of history and how he's affected slavery and the civil rights movement and all sorts of stuff, while also seeing how he's battling this new alien threat in the United States. And they decide they want to end the drug trade, and that sends all sorts of things into chaos. This is a really good series. There's a lot of layers here. Once you get past the fact that it's like not exactly the same thing you were used to from the original series, there's a lot to enjoy about this book. And the art by Doug Braithwaite is amazing. It's second to none when you're talking about action-packed superhero artwork. So that's the second book. And then we got Hardware Season 1. This is issue 2. My issue 1 is like, I don't know, it's somewhere else. But this is issue number 2. This one, I don't remember who does the covers on these. Man, I wish it was written right here. But anyway, Hardware, Season 1, written by Brandon Thomas, who you may know from Excellence or some of the more recent Aquaman titles at DC Comics. But then also it's got art by Milestone Media co-founder, original creative director, still creative director, Dennis Cowan. And not only that, Dennis Cowan is inked by longtime inking partner Bill Sienkiewicz. They did work together on The Question. They've done work together in the past, but man, it's like they have found the formula. They have perfected it, and they complement each other's work perfectly. The artwork in this series is some of the most reminiscent of the old day because, well, Dennis originally penciled Hardware. So he's penciling Hardware again, and the script by Brandon Thomas, they kind of capture the best elements of the original series. In some ways, they completely pay homage or homage to the original series, and it's telling a great, compelling story of its own. So Curtis Metcalf, this guy in the iron suit, I shouldn't call it iron. He gets compared to Iron Man enough. But this guy right here, Curtis Metcalf, basically, he thinks he's super important to this company, and the CEO of that company thinks otherwise. Not only that, he's using Curtis's technology to perform all sorts of sinister deeds, and Curtis has had enough. He's going to take him down. And this is like freaking enemy of the state type thriller. I love this story. Curtis is on the run, running from the police, while also trying to outsmart Edwin Alva and beat him at his own game. This has been my favorite of the 3 rebooted series, but they're all really, really good. Now, in case this whole return to the Milestone universe wasn't enough, they didn't just give us a bunch of new titles. They also are bringing back the older titles. So every week this year, we've gotten new issues or old issues of Milestone Media titles headed to DC Universe Infinite. And in February, on February 1st, they are releasing the Milestone Compendium. Now, this is a big deal. This book is over 1,300 pages and collects the first 8 to 12 issues of almost every single title that came out of Milestone Media in that original 4-year run. Dog, Icon, Hardware, Static, Blood Syndicate, Zombie, Shadow Cabinet, all of these books packed in one amazing softcover compendium. Now, if they keep the same mapping, it would take about 4 volumes to collect all of the Milestone universe in those books. And I hope they do, because the first one looks amazing. I can't wait to get mine in. If you would like to order the Milestone Compendium, you can do so at our channel sponsor, Organic Priced Books. They are offering it for the lowest price you're going to see on a pre-order, and that's $45 US. But if you use my coupon code BJKicks at checkout, you'll get an extra $2 off of that order and every order every time. And since it's over $30, you'll get free shipping on your order. So do not forget to pre-order that book. I'll leave a link in the description below so that you can get indoctrinated in all the Milestone world just like I have. Now, what's really cool is most of the books that are collected in that compendium have never seen trade paperback collections. These 3 trades that I showed you, there's only 2 other trades, and Blood Syndicate's never been collected. Zombie's never been collected. It's kind of crazy how none of this stuff has seen the light of day outside of their original issues from 92. So if you want to jump into this world for the first time, this compendium is the perfect way to do that. But yeah, with all of this stuff happening, there was no way I could end 2021 without shouting out the return of Milestone Media. A huge thanks to Dennis Cowan and Reggie Hudlin for all their support on this channel. And thanks to you for watching this. I hope I gave you something to think about, something that you would really enjoy. And if not, hey, that's cool, because you can always buy what you like. Just make sure you read what you buy and be nice to others, because kindness makes the world go round. Peace.